what do you guys understand from Agile? We have been saying Agile, Agile, Agile. So what do you actually think? I would want to hear from you what Agile is.
What I understood that, taking one piece at a time, complete it, deliver it, and then move on to another. And second, get the real picture early. I mean, like your previous picture was good to explain that. I mean, even if we are getting into a wrong direction, since there will be a constant check, probably we will be able to understand that we are in a wrong direction, and before it is too late, we can control it or we can modify our thing.
Yes, very well said. And as Debajit mentioned it in a crisp form, continuous delivery with the continuous feedback from stakeholders. Exactly. But one of the biggest, so few of the biggest myths that are associated with Agile is that Agile doesn't need any documentation. There is no process. It's the latest fad. That's why we just need to use it. There is no discipline, no quality, no methodology, no planning. But this is all wrong. In Agile, there are five stages of planning involved. Who said documentation is not involved? Okay, we don't do that much documentation as waterfall. We are not gonna create the SRS document, just dump it in your configuration management system and just forget about it. We would have minimum possible documentation. When I say Agile minimum possible documentation, Agile follows case rule. Keep it short and simple. So what does if I take my previous example, test strategy, right? Rather than creating a 50-page long document, I would just pick up few things from test strategy. What did we exactly talk? Okay, I'll take few sticky notes or probably create a chart where everybody in my team can see it, or probably have a information radiator where my cross location teams can also see it. Whenever they open that system, that's the first thing that gets reflected, so that when they're seeing it daily, it memorizes them. So what I'll do is cross browser, cross platform, I'll put it in 5 bullets. Okay, Windows, okay, Mac, Opera, for my Chrome, IE, all the versions of IE. In scope, these are in scope. 3 things out of scope. And contact person. That's it. I think that's the main things that are covered in test strategy. We don't go beyond it. It's again, the rest of that is a essay that we have in test strategy. But these is the main 3 things that are covered in test strategy. So I'll just create a beautiful chart, paste it on my wall, team area wall, and push it as a information radiator. So there is a documentation, but it's short and simple. It's crisp, right? There is planning involved. So as I mentioned, there are 5 levels of planning. I'll detail it out in further slides, but there is a 5 level of planning. One planning is at a project level where you are defining the vision. Then comes an iteration planning, right? Then comes the release planning, and then the iteration planning, and then the day-to-day planning. Right, and if there are multiple projects involved, there is a planning at the top which is called vision planning. Okay, so it's not that there is no planning involved. No architecture, no. Then we have architectures, we adapt and we improvise those architectures every sprint. No quality, that's absolutely wrong, because we are testing in a pairs. We are testing on a daily basis. It's not that we are testing at the end of the sprint. Again, that would be a mini waterfall. We are testing on daily basis. We have automation regression suites that run, because we are not checking in your code on a daily basis. You are not agile. You need to check in. It is a mandatory rule to check in your code on daily basis. And when the codes are checked in, there should be automation suites, regression suites which should run. And then obviously a functional testing would come into picture when that feature is developed. But on a daily basis, you are running your regression suites, right? So obviously, so when I say that continuous check-in is happening, continuous regression is happening, these which needs to be there. These are the processes, okay? So it has processes. So as I mentioned, Agile is a mindset, okay? So in one of the previous examples, as I mentioned, that it should not be that daily task assignments should be happening. Team should have that mindset. They should have that ownership feeling. No, this is my product. I have to make it. If these two features are in scope, I am done with first feature and other team members are busy in implementing something else. Let me go ahead and pick up feature number 2. Or if my functionality or my task, I am stuck somewhere, I'll just go and pick something which is more important, which is of next priority, right? So it is a mindset. So if teams are given that ownership, the teams start building that ownership, the morale of the team is always high. Because generally what happens is the manager comes and he says, okay, A, you have to do this. Even if A is not clear on what needs to be done, he or she has to do it because he has been guided, he has been commanded. But if A himself or herself thinks, okay, the sprint has started, okay, this is a priority list, this is priority 1, priority 2, and from priority 1 I am comfortable with this, let me pick up this. He or she will feel responsible, which will give him a motivation to work, right? Welcome change. So since we say in waterfall model that the requirements cannot be changed. Once freezed, the only requirement change happens after years of effort or months of effort, but by then it's too late. But in this case, since you are delivering a product every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you are getting a feedback from a client. Like for example, if he or she feels this font is not working for my website. So for you to change a font when only the UI of the screen was ready, for particular screen was ready, would be more easy rather than doing it when complete site was up and running. So you are welcoming change, right, which will give a sense of comfort to your client as well, right? Then the feedback loops, there are continuous feedback loops from the testing team as well and from the client as well, since the testing is happening on the daily basis. So the feedback loops are very continuous and at a very short span of time, so they can be implemented easily. Continuous delivery, as I mentioned, then it's an incremental development. So you are not working on all requirements in one go, you are picking up the most prior requirement and you are working on it, and then you are adding to it. Like if for the same example of login screen, you first created the page, your first delivery was a page creation, okay, it was ready, approved by client, then you implemented the login functionality, okay, login worked perfectly, landing page came in perfectly, then you implemented the field level validations, okay, now the field level, so you're adding onto it, you're adding to the pile of dust, right? Everything is not coming in one go, it's not big bang, right? Small value-added slices, right? So since client is able to see that the value of money, the ROI of his investment is coming, return is coming on a very quick effort, he can see the screen. So that gives him a sense of confidence, trust is there. So, and the value addition happens to the client. But obviously in real scenarios, you would not just be delivering a single page, there would be some functionality, because if you're working in a real scenario, you would be giving him a login screen probably, right? So that's a value addition. He can see that things coming to him. And 2-3 sprints down the line, he would have something. If you even remember, there are certain things which are releases in like alpha stage, beta stage, when, or maybe if I talk about e-commerce websites like Snapdeal or Debong, when they started, they had very less features, but eventually things started getting added to it, right? It was an incremental delivery, but since it was out in a market, they started getting the returns to it, right? So that's a value addition to the client. Learning through the discovery, since we are getting feedback, then we have after end of each sprint, we are having a what we call that retrospective meeting. We are adapting, where we are analyzing where we went wrong and something we can improve. So we are learning through it. So we would know, okay, this thing went wrong in that iteration. So we need to improve, as a team need to improve on it, or as an individual I need to improve on it. right? And then again, since we are adapting, there is always a continuous improvement, right? So here, in a mindset part, I would also want to add something here. Okay, so I have a requirement, but my team was not clear about it. I wrote an email to the client, but since client was too busy, he could not respond to my email. That email stuff lingered on for a day, for a two. But if I'm agile and my mindset, I would quickly, if I don't hear back from my client in probably 2 or 3 hours, I would just pick up a phone and ask a quick clarification and get it sorted there. If I'm still, I keep on holding for a email thing to happen, or probably maybe the next meeting to happen, I would not get that clarified, right? Even if in the co-located teams, as I'm testing my functionality and I get stuck somewhere because of some reason, the environment was not responding properly, I send an email to the configuration team. Maybe the configuration team was out for tea. I just waited for 2 hours or maybe 1 hour or maybe 30 minutes for them to return and to answer my email. Right? It was my effort wastage. I lost my 30 minutes or 1 hour, whatever time it was. But had I picked up the phone immediately, okay, environment is down, and they would have just given me maybe they were able to give me a quick fix over the phone, I'm up and running in 5 minutes. Right? So I need to have that mindset to do that. Okay?
Very good point. Really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so what do you understand by lean? Can you just tell me the English meaning of lean?
Sleek, thin.
Okay. Sleek, thin.
Tiny, narrow.
Narrow. So yes, exactly, lean meaning thin, slim trim, okay? Yeah, this is exactly what I mean, no fat, no extra stuff, just to the point. So if there is no extra flesh in the body, we call you person is lean, right? So this is what exactly it means. Removing the waste from the project is lean. Okay, so when I say removing the waste from the project, it means that I am not implementing the functionality which is not needed. I am sorry, I am not focusing on unnecessary stuff. I am just working to the point. I am just focusing on the business performance. I am just business requirement, and once and my solutions are all based on achieving what I actually need. Okay, so to do this, so this is one of the big one of the items under the umbrella of Agile is lean. Okay, so here we are continuously working on implementing only those functionalities, or probably working on that aspect of project which is just needed. So this might also mean that I am not implementing the coding standards as of now, right? I would write a code, probably I have not implemented it using OOPS concept. I just wrote everything. I wanted to do 3+2. I just hard coded everything and just delivered the result 5, right? My main intention is I delivered that 3+2 is 5. I did not focus how I got it, but I just achieved it. I did not waste my time implementing or improvising the quality standard, the coding standard. I did not waste my time on any of this stuff. I just focused on what actually was needed. So actually I needed was 3+2. Once I got it, I said I have delivered the functionality. But here it is, the catch is, it does not mean that you would not focus on this refactoring of the code. This refactoring of the code would be in discussion, in transparency with the client, would be done at the later stage. Okay. So my main agenda here is that I am delivering the acceptance criteria, I am meeting the acceptance criteria, and I am delivering what is needed. So it is beneficial where, you know, when you have very less time and you just want to have a quality product, where you just want to have all the features properly implementing, they are working properly. This is where the lean would best fit in. And probably the code can be improvised at the later stages. So lean is about thinking differently. Lean says eliminate waste. Right. So when I'm working in lean, as I mentioned, I'm just working to the point. I am not focusing on extra additional stuff. I am working on what exactly is needed. I am amplifying my learning. Since I am doing a constant review, I have increased feedback cycles are there, because I'm just focused on delivering the product. I'm just working too fast to get it done. There would be a decreased feedback cycle. I mean, the time of the feedback cycle would be reduced. And since I'm doing that and I'm implementing the feedback as fast as possible, so I'm learning through it, that how I can deliver a quality product. I get feedbacks early at a very early stage, so I know what things I need to take care in the future. Now, next is decide as late as possible. Can somebody tell me what would that mean?
One thing would be to get as many feedbacks as possible, like from all the stakeholders, and then instead of hurrying into the decision, like just take everybody's perspective and then take a call out of it.
No, but then you know, that would reduce the impact of having the feedbacks. Then I would not be amplifying my learning there. I got the feedback, but if I did not make use of it, no point having a feedback. To a certain extent, yes, it is right. I would pick up the feedbacks which are really important. I would not negate that statement completely, but I would just pick up the few important stuff. So I will bar my decisions on anything, maybe hiring a resource, or maybe getting a new server, or maybe any decision. I would try to bar it as much as I can, because the later I decide, more clarity I would have. Right. So in one way, maybe about taxation system. Right, I started working on a taxation system in maybe June, right? And my summer budget is happening, and I'm not sure what if there would be some changes in the service tax, if there would be some changes in the VAT. If I go while the budget is happening in June only, if I go and implement it, and if things get changed in the budget, I would have to go back to it and implement it later again. That is a double effort for me. But if I bar the decision, okay, since I would not be needing a taxation system before February, or maybe before January, if it's a huge org, you would start maybe preparing it in Jan. So let me bar the decision till November. I'll wait till November, so that if at all any changes have to be made, it would be done in a winter session, and I would implement it then. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then is deliver as fast as possible, which is again a simple agile principle. We have been talking about deliver as fast as possible, quick delivery cycles are there. Empower the team. Your team owns everything. It's not that they are not guided or commanded to do something. They own it. Right? Build quality in. So since the stakeholder involvement in Agile is pretty high, right? The quality of any product that would be delivered would always be pretty high, because since stakeholders can see the product on almost a daily basis or on a weekly basis, they would be reviewing it, they would be giving it the feedback. So you are building the quality. You are ensuring the end product, the confidence level of their end product would be very high. Then it says see the whole. It says think big, right? Don't just focus on one thing. Think on a bigger picture. See the bigger picture, how it would help. Now, for example, if I'm the same example for taxation system, for an ERP system, taxation is a very high requirement. But had I not seen the budgets and the time where I'm going to implement it, I would have done it. I did not see the bigger picture. There are budget coming in, so coming in there would be some changes in the taxes slabs or maybe something. I saw the bigger picture and I held on my decision. I did not implement it. Right? So see the bigger picture, think big. Okay? Then, so let's see what are the benefits of lean. After listening to this, let's discuss the benefits. So what do you think would be the, what is the biggest benefit you see of implementing this approach?
Yeah, one is optimal utilization, like whatever resources we've got, and using it to the best means, like as we said, like getting rid of the waste and taking the cream out of your resources. I mean, not only human resources. I mean, all sorts of resources, and using the cream out of it.
Yes, exactly. And anybody else?
Yeah, same. I mean, what is needed? What is the actual need? Identify it, deliver it. There is no extra things, no waste things.
Right. So I'll just read the slides. I think all of you have answered that. So it identifies the value, what is the value, what would give you the maximum value to the customer, and we try to eliminate the waste. We do not focus on priority 3 and priority 4. Our focus is first on the priority 1 items. Right? If I talk from a defect backlog perspective, if I have to be lean, my focus would be fixing the priority 1. Priority 3s and priority 4s can be taken care of later. Right? Then I'm continuously improving the pursuit of perfection since I'm getting the continuous feedback. Right. So if I am working on priority 1 defects, if one or two of the defects are probably reopen or they need to be refixed, I might be fixing some number of priority 3 and priority 4 defects while I'm fixing priority 1. It could be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am improving continuously. And customer sees the validation. I am adding a value. I am building a trust in the eyes of the customer. So now, when we are talking about lean, there are 3 types of waste. One is called Muda, Muri, and Mura. So what is Muda? Which it says work which absorbs resource but adds no value. So we should not work on that item or a task which is adding no value, but is consuming my resource. So for example, if I am trying to improvise my code when there is an important delivery to go ahead, I am focusing on the customer, on the coding standards and adding comments. It is consuming my time, but it's not adding the value for that particular moment, right? Then Muri, unreasonable work that is imposed on workers and machines, same like implementing of the coding standards at that particular time. If I'm implementing, if my, I don't want to do it, but my manager keeps telling me, oh, do it, that is Muri. So that is imposing of the work. Then Mura, so lean says that works come in ticks and bits. You would be working it in an incremental way. There would be never a situation when you get a big bang amount of a work. Since you are working on the priorities, even if you, while implementing something, you saw something that this should be done this way. So for example, if in a login screen, my requirement says username cannot be, should be 3 or more characters, right? But while I was developing it, I realized there are many people with name Joe, J-O, Joe, right? I will just go back to the client and ask him that it needs to be, this is an improvement request. This needs to be this needs to be implemented, my client would reprioritize that for me. So if he'll feel that, okay, this needs to be implemented now and then only, he'll give me a priority. And he will pull out the same amount of work for that particular task, right? So if one thing is added, other thing of equal priority or equal effort would be taken out. So system thinking is nothing but when we are thinking of a system as a whole, it's not that we are just focusing on the output. So for example, if I say 3 plus 2 is equal to 5, my concern is not just 5. I am also focusing on what input did it go. Was it 3 plus 2, was it 4 plus 1, or was it 5 plus 0? Or were there any intermediary values involved, right? So I am analyzing my complete system. So here are the 5 questions we ask. So where do we want it to be? So now if I say 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 and it should be assigned to value x. So I will try to understand whether it should be assigned to value x or whether it should be assigned to y. Right? What are the intermediary values? How will I achieve 3 plus 2 is equal to 5? How will I know that what result I have got in the intermediary values that were involved were correct? Then where are we now? So have we got the 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 into x or not? Analyzing the complete output. How did we get there? What were the changes in the requirement, or what are the changes in my requirement that I would, that I would need to get that result? So in that way, I am analyzing my input, right? 3 plus 2, 4 plus 1, 5 plus 0. I am analyzing the throughput or the intermediary systems. I am analyzing the output, and I am trying to analyze the way whether I have got it the place where I wanted to get 5. So I have got whether I have got it at the right place or not. It could be that I got it at y. My system is showing me 5, but I wanted it in x, but I got it in y. So I am analyzing my complete system, and based on the outputs and on these analysis, I am giving a feedback, right? And this feedback can be done through inspection, adaptation, and transparency. This is called empirical process control also. Now, to analyze my system, we have an empirical process control. Empirical process control says you inspect your system. You are analyzing all your input and output. Then, then based on my output, I am adapting my results. And to adapt and to inspect, my system should be transparent enough. It should give me that path so that I can understand it. Right? Unless and until my system is not transparent, I would not be able to inspect it. And if I'm not able to inspect it, I would not be able to adapt it. Okay? So empirical process system is achieved in 2 types, in a single loop learning and in a double loop learning. In a single loop learning, as you see in this diagram, it says I inspect my system, I define what I need, I observe my system, I analyze the feedback. So in a single loop learning, when you are analyzing your feedback, you make changes in the existing input and the processes there, the design that was used to create it. While in a double loop learning, if there is some problem, you try to make changes in the complete area. I mean, like if there was a problem in the intermediary values, I will go ahead and change it completely, or maybe I will, if there was a problem in the input, I will reshuffle my input values. I can have a new, so for if 3 plus 2 it was giving me a problem, I can try with 1 plus 4 as well. Okay, so this is how it works. So I'll just quickly read the slide. Single loop learning is where the changes are made to perform on action without questioning and reasoning. While in double loop learning, the changes are made only after questioning the action that is to be performed, and if reasonings are convinced, we go ahead and make the changes and collect the feedback. Okay. This system thinking is not very important aspect. I have seen many mock tests, many questions. There has hardly been a case where it was part of your exam, right? Lead is very important from exam perspective. Now, why do we think system thinking is important? It helps us in a decision making. So this is a typical case of a debugging, right? So I am debugging my system, and I found that in some intermediary value it bounced down. So I would be able to make a quick decision. Okay, my intermediary process is not working right. I'll just focus on there, and it will help me effectively deal with that change, rather than trying my hands out here and there. I just know that my intermediary value is not getting stored properly. I'll just focus on that, and I would be sorted. Right? Since the feedback loops are there, I'm adapting. It gives people a chance to adapt and work in an efficient way. They would know, and they would take care of it probably in a later stage. So for example, if I'm saying my storage was not proper, the intermediate values were not storing properly, so next time when I would do a similar kind of a thing, I would ensure that mistake is not repeated. And then it gives you a complete understanding of the system. Now since you have debugged, you would know everything, how the function was, which function was called where, and how it was happening, what did the input go, and how it actually happened. So it helps you understand your complete system, organize you, saves your effort, only deal with the actual problem area. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So any doubts before we get on to the next topic?
So far so good.
Okay. Now since we have talked about traditional project management as well and agile as well, I will want you guys to reiterate it. Probably you have the screen if you would want to just differentiate between them quickly. Or if you can read one by one, we can start with Anidya, maybe alphabetical order. And if you just want to just go ahead and read and want to comment on or elaborate on first point.
Yeah, so focus on plans and artifacts is the traditional, and the agile will be focus on customer interaction and satisfaction. So, but we do plan and we do have artifacts as well, right, in agile?
Yes, but our major focus is never that. Our delivery point is not an artifact, right? My delivery to customer is the actual working product. My delivery to customer is not the requirement document.
Yes, absolutely. And now I can recollect the example you gave, that it's not a 10 pages to 40 pages test strategy document, but
Right.
taking some important things and just the pager. Yeah. So instead of writing too many emails or just waiting for days for them to come back, I mean, it's always better to go and interact or make a phone call. So getting the interaction more proactive, basically. That's the first. Second, resistance to changes. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Two.
No. Okay. Yeah. Second one is resistance to changes. That's the traditional one, and here changes are incorporated at any time of the project building. That's quite understandable because traditional project management is more of a, that's what we discussed, like major chunk of work together and waterfall, Big Bang theory. So once something is developed fully, it's very hard to change. So because any small change would be very expensive. However, this is more iterative approach in agile. So things are at an initial stage and it will be less expensive. It will be cheap on cost. So yeah, so that's, yeah, now pass on to Debajit.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's like a head versus heart kind of a situation. Like waterfall, it's like more like, getting it right politically. Like, okay, these are the document. This is the document that we have committed on. So now since like maybe 6 months down the line, if there's some changes that are coming up, so it's like the vendor would say, no, see, these are the things we had agreed on. So now it's impossible to go back on this and that. So I mean, it's getting it more, politically right. I mean, by means of documents and like sign-offs and all. So, but in Agile, it's like more like, doing it together. Like, okay, I mean, we are a part of your. It's like the vendor kind and company relationship. It's like more friendly. Like, okay, we'll be working on this together. Like, and we'll be delivering it frequently to get a feedback from you very often. Like, see, this is the thing that you'll be getting. Are you happy with it? If yes, we can carry on with that. Or if there's certain problems, we can discuss like why. What are the problems and what we can do about it, and then getting it sorted out, and then delivering it again in another maybe week's time or week or two time, maybe in another 14 days time to get another feedback from the customer. So waterfall, it's more like the customer would be at a loss. Like, okay, they'll be just keeping on wondering like what would be delivered to them.
Yes, and in Agile we have that tendency to ask why. So if a customer comes and tells me I need this, we would ask why he actually needs it. We will try to get to the base, so understand the complete requirement, because out of that we might come up with few acceptance criteria. Okay.
So that's like a double loop learning, right? Yeah, why we are doing certain things.
Yeah. Next point.
Waterfall, it's like it's broken into the testers, developers. There's a distinct boundary between the teams. Here, like, it's like more of it's a boundaryless team. Like, dev and QA. Of course, there will be some kind of there might be some differences in opinion and all, but at the end of the day, everybody would be a part of the everybody would be a part of the same team. There's no there's no distinct boundary between the teams, and people would be one more thing, like it would be assume that people know that what they're supposed to do. So people will have their own distinct the set of responsibilities, and it would be assumed like nobody would be bossing others, like, okay, this was supposed to be your task, why haven't you done it and all. It's like, just in case if my work doesn't get done, it would be more like, okay, can I help you in some way, or like, so it's like a boundaryless team, borderless team kind of thing.
Yeah, self-organizing. There are no bosses. There are no roles. So there could be a scenario where a Scrum, one of the team members, maybe somebody from a QA team goes missing one day, right? And a Scrum Master will just pitch in to do that. Right? It's not that, oh, I am a Scrum Master, I'll not come and QA. So it's a boundaryless game, right?
Yeah, just one example, like yesterday I was, just before Mathu time, I was just listening to one, there was one video that I was looking at in YouTube. It was, a Microsoft's typical Scrum meeting, like, so it was some Microsoft product team, 7 or 8 people in that team. So the project manager, the product owner, was the last person who came to the picture. It's not like the manager would always be the Scrum Master, it's not that the manager would be always the one defining and running the meeting. It was just a team member who was the Scrum Master, and that person was running the show.
Yeah, he's very right actually, because long back when I was around 1 year experience in this industry, I worked in Microsoft, and there's a similar kind of meeting we had to undergo, and it was what he portrayed was pretty correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's one video on YouTube where you guys can want to, if you want to go and just.
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
Devajit, you can share the link on the chat window probably, or we will have a look at it. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let me find it.
In the interest of time, Matha, can you just quickly? Matha, are you there?
Either way is not a problem to me, but let's go ahead with the next.
Okay. Are you guys comfortable moving ahead? I mean, scope-based, time-box delivery, contract-oriented, and
last one, customer-oriented.
Not a problem to me.
Contract.
Okay. Matha, I'm just checking with other team, with Anindya and Devajit.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fine.
Customer-oriented
Okay, no
is Anindya. Yeah. The customer-oriented is nothing but if customer needs a change, we accept that. So we are entertaining a customer. It's not that we go ahead by rules or by the contract. Okay, the contract was signed for just these 10 requirements. I would only work on these 10 requirements. So we bill our customers on the basis of the features we are delivering, not on the basis of the time or maybe. So it's not a fixed price project. Agile would not work in a fixed price project. So you have to entertain your customer since you have to welcome change. So you can't go by your contract.
It's T&M. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the quiz section. Okay. And Andy would ask you a few quizzes, and you just think about the answer internally. I mean, we can just. And you can just verify if this is what you actually thought of. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So first question is, agile processes promote dash development: iterative, incremental, sustainable, rapid. Shall I show the answer?
No, just 10 seconds. Confused between A and B. Okay, yeah, I've got an answer.
It's C, sustainable.
Oh.
It promotes sustainable. So if it is not sustainable, you would not be able to follow the iterative and incremental development as well. It's not the sustained speed and it's not sustainable. Doubts?
Sustainable, which is, can be, long run, it's sustained and.
Yeah. So team is not, one of the days the team is going home at 4 o'clock and other of the days team is working till 4 in the morning. It's a sustainable pace. Right? Since we are working on a plan and we are working in a small chunks, this would never be a case. We promote 40 hours a week. Okay?
Wow. Okay, yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
Next question. Which of the following is not a characteristic of an agile plan? Focus on the customer satisfaction, are top to down, easy to change, shows dependencies of one task to another.
Yeah.
Are you guys done? Should I move ahead with the answer?
Yes.
Show dependencies of one task on another. Got that? I think there is a problem with this question.
Yeah, I was confused.
This question. Yeah, I'll just take a note on this.
Okay, see, the A and C are definitely agile thing, easy to change and focus on customer.
So I'll just take a note of this and this question.
Yeah, sure. I would go with B because somewhere I read that it's not a top-down, no bossy thing and all that.
Yeah, you are right. So B and D both are right.
Yeah.
So in D shows dependency of one task to another. When we do the requirement, when we start with the concept of user stories, you will get that point. So B and D both are correct. So I'll just make a note and I'll check with the Edureka to make changes.
Shows dependencies of one task to another.
So the task needs to be broken in such a way that it's not interlinked. Like one task is UI, another task is maybe so users, basically the concept of user stories, it should be independent. To complete one user story, it might not be that I have a dependency on the same user story in the same sprint. Obviously, if I have to implement a login functionality, UI would be ready. But then my sprint would be organized in such a way that in one sprint I am just delivering the UI.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. Okay. Now I'll just skip this slide. This too. Okay. No, let me just, because we have talked about it. So Agile life cycle revolves around three. They are predictive life cycle, iterative life cycle, and adaptive life cycle. Like so, with predictive life cycle, we mean that time and cost are required to deliver that scope. So in this, where requirements are defined early and they are not changed. So if there is a change, probably we will hold on to that and we will change them in another phase. So this is not very important. So guys, I will be real quick with these three things, these three life cycles. Okay. And probably the cost of incurring that change is would be pretty less, right? The end result is delivered only at the display. So it is a small waterfall kind of a thing. So for example, if you're working in a sprint, it's a 3-week sprint, and it's a 3-week sprint, and you only get to test at the end of a sprint. Maybe in the first 2 weeks you are doing the development, and the 3rd week you are testing. This would be a predictive life cycle. It's a mini waterfall model, but in a small chunks. Okay.
Okay.
In a iterative is something we have been talking about. We would be working on a small chunks, and we will be doing everything: requirement, design, implementation, testing, and review every time we are doing a development. Every time we are working on some feature. And the end product here is always delivered at the end of each iteration. Okay. Okay. Who should participate in iteration planning?
Everyone.
Exactly, correct. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm leaving this adaptive.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm leaving this adaptive wala because we have done it, but if you guys want to have a quick look. So in adaptive, we says we have a 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 4 weeks of iteration. Then we have a retrospection. We go back, sit for a few hours with complete team. We retrospect what went good, what went wrong, and then we replan everything. And in the next iteration, we work on the improvements with the improvements implemented. Okay, so we are adapting every 2 to 4 weeks.
So one out of the three has to be there, right? I mean, we have to live with one of the life cycle out of these three.
The best life cycle would be adaptive life cycle. Because you are reinventing things, you are rethinking, and you are analyzing what is good and what is wrong. Okay? Any doubts?
This is the real agile mindset.
Yeah, this is the real agile, adaptive. So let's look at Alan's question. As an agile project manager, which type of risk analysis would you focus on? Qualitative, quantitative, both A and B, none of these. both A and B, because if you're compromising on the quality, you would not be able to deliver the right quantity, right? And if you have to deliver, and if you're just focusing on the quantity without a quality, the quantity delivered would be of no value to you or to the customer.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, in a traditional waterfall, are you guys aware of this iron triangle?
No, not me.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I've seen it. Scope and cost. Yeah.
Please. Hello? Yeah. So basically in traditional, what happens is the requirements remain fixed, right? We are not changing the requirement. The requirements are never revised. They are fixed. If I need a jet fighter, my requirement would be I need a jet fighter, right? My time would change. I estimated it to be 2 years, but my time would turn out to be 3 years, 4 years. My time changes, my cost, obviously with time my cost increases, but the scope never changes. But in Agile, the time and cost are fixed, but the scope is variable, right? So we are, since we adapt, we permit changes, we are changing the scope as well. We are reviewing the change based on the feedback cycles, feedback loops. We are changing the scope, so the time and cost remains fixed, and we work on the variable part becomes the scope. So this is called the flipping of an iron triangle. Okay.
Yeah.
So in traditional iron triangle, if you change one of the variables, one of the other variable has to change too. For example, if you have to add additional scope in the project, which hardly is the case, the time and the cost too has to go high. While in the Agile iron triangle, the value of the project is considered to be the priority. So the value is always delivered when we are delivering a quality product with the changing, with adapting a change. Yes, my cost and schedule is a constraint, but we work on prioritizing the requirements, but we are adding value to the customer by delivering the right product. We are delivering the verified and validated product to the customer. Right? My constraints could be cost and scope, but then when customer understands, customer is involved throughout the life cycle of the project, he would obviously appreciate why the cost would increase. Okay, so this is called flipping of the triangle.
I am clear till the second triangle, the middle one of flipping it. But the last one, the value is the quality, and the constraint is what? The cost schedules for all the three are written.
No. So the value and quality are interrelated. The constraints of delivering the value to the customer could be cost, and cost or schedule or the scope probably. So when I am not changing on the time, right, there could be a case where I have to bring down one of the requirements. So for example, I have 10 requirements, and while creating first 9, first 4, I realized that the other 2 would work efficiently if I add one more requirement to it, or this thing is implemented, right? To implement that, I might have to pick up the 9th requirement and pull it down to adjust my 11th requirement. So in a way, my requirements still remain 10, but I have worked on the priority list, and the 9th requirement would be picked up at a later stage. So we are not leaving the 9th requirement, but based on the priority, we are first working on the 10th requirement, and then when the time permits, the scope permits, and schedule permits, and the client is and feels that okay, he has a budget to get that, we deliver that. But while in waterfall model, you don't even have a scope to replace one of the requirements because you're already done with the requirement, you're already done with the design, you're already done with the development and testing. Right? When based on this cost, schedule and scope, budgeting of the client, we would again go ahead and fix the 9th one, implement the 9th one as well. But in waterfall, we don't have that scope even.
So what is the constraint here? Yeah. So what is the constraint here?
It's not a constant, it's a constraint.
Oh, okay.
The constraint would be, it's not constant, it's constraint.
Yeah, okay. Understood.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is getting compromised here is the scope and not the time and cost.
Where? In Agile?
Yeah.
No, in Agile we have not compromised the scope. We are still working on the scope, but we have prioritized the scope.
Prioritizing, okay. Yeah. Like you said, the 10th is getting first and then as compared to 9th or depending on the plan.
Right. Otherwise I would not have been able to implement 6th and 7th as well. Right?
Okay.
So they got reprioritized.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So now is incremental and iterative delivery. So incremental is, okay, I think this would be explained better with an example here. Okay. So incremental is, I want to have a Mona Lisa, right? So in incremental, I'll first work on the face, then on the arms, and then on the complete body. But in iterative, I'm completely working on the complete pic of Mona Lisa, but I'm enhancing it. Right? So in a typical example which I gave you, I want 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. In incremental, in first stage, I would be just taking the input from my code. In second phase, I would be adding it. In the third phase, I would be storing it in a variable x. While in iterative, I would be doing 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 in the first stage. In the second stage, probably I am taking 3 plus 2 as an input from a user. I am refactoring it. Right? And in the third variable, in the third iteration, maybe, I am returning that 5 value. So this is how I am improvising. In incremental, I am working in bits and parts and then collaborating it and binding them together. In iterative, I am working on everything together, but in bits and bits, I am enhancing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now here comes the most important part of this chapter, which is Agile Manifesto.
Just one thing, so sorry. So they both, I mean, what was the point? What was the takeaway? I mean, both are good depending on what is required?
Yes, depending upon what is actually needed, both are good.
Okay, and both are agile. Both can be an agile mindset.
Both can be agile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Agile Manifesto was designed in 2001. By 17 people. Okay, so these 17 people had met together for discussion on a project and something. They were from, most of them, I think, from ThoughtWorks. They got together and came up with these 3 manifestos. So it says the items on the left have more value than the items on the right. So items on the right are from the word over. So everything before over has more value than the items on the after over, like processes and tools, right? So the first point in manifesto says individual and interactions over processes and tools. So as we have talked about, Agile believes in interacting on an individual basis, one-on-one basis, having interactions rather following the processes and tools, right? Rather than putting a query in a requirement tracker and checking it in and waiting for it to come, I would probably pick up a phone update the get a requirement resolved, update it, and circulate it. So we believe in interacting rather than following the processes and tools. Second says working software over comprehensive documentation. So I think this point is pretty clear. So I value more working software, right? If I don't see a working software, there is no value to the documents produced. I don't care if I have a requirement document. I don't care if I have a test strategy. All I care is a working software. So at the end of each iteration, I should be able to see a working software. If my software doesn't work, it is of no value to a user or to the customer or to the team. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So rather than following a contract, I would value my customer more. I would value my customer needs. My priority would be delivering value to my customer. I would prefer responding to a change rather than following a plan. I think these were pretty explanatory, but if you have any doubts, just let me know. Okay. I will quickly read all of these 12 principles which have been jotted down from the 4 Agile Manifestos. If you have any doubts, just let me know. I'll just stop and clarify because these are the points we have already talked about. Satisfying customer is my top priority. This is the first principle. Second says welcoming change in the requirements, right? Third is delivering working software. Fourth is development and business work together. There are no teams. Complete test, QA, client, product owner, everybody works together as a one team, right? The primary measure of success is a working software. Team regularly reflects on work and then tunes and adjusts to its behavior. They are adapting, they are refactoring themselves. After every sprint, they are reviewing their work and they are trying to analyze what went wrong and what did not. They are retrospecting. Build projects around motivated team has the spirit of ownership and they have trust between each other. Most effective and efficient method of conveying information to and within development team is to have a face-to-face communication. If there are cross-location teams, pick up the phone, have video conferencing. The best mode of communication is a face-to-face communication. If face-to-face communication cannot happen for some strange reasons like have conference calls, chat, right? Continuous attention to the technical excellence and the good design. So we are refactoring ourselves, so we are improving the quality, so technical excellence. 10th point is simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. Okay, so I would want to, what do you mean by this point? Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done. Any idea? Okay, so it talks about eliminating the waste. It says, it's just the play of a language, but it means that something which is not needed, forget it. Eliminate the waste. Decide as late as possible.
Super.
Okay, it's just the language. So all it means is eliminate the waste. Okay? So best architectural requirements come from self-organizing teams. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsor development is used to be able to maintain a constant pace. Anitya, that answers your question on the sustainable development?
Yeah, just thinking on that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Declaration of interdependence, I think we have talked about it. If you just guys want to read, you can quickly read, and I think we have talked about it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Agile framework. So guys, one question I would want to ask here. We have many agile certifications. One is PMI ACP, okay, and then we have CSM, Certified Scrum Master. Did you why did you not think, or why do you think ACP would be much beneficial than going from a CSM? I mean, what do you think would be the difference between having so many agile related certifications?
I mean, I thought of that, anything PMI offers. So the two certifications which you talked about, both are of PMI or of?
No, CSM, CSM is from by Scrum Alliance.
Okay, okay. I don't know. I mean, PMI has good recognition, maybe.
Okay, from syllabus perspective, do you think there would be anything?
If both are,
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it's different frameworks they are dealing with more, giving priority.
No. So, no, I'll just let you know. Agile is a superset of all the mentioned methodologies here. Scrum is a subset of Agile. Crystal is a subset of Agile. XP is a subset of Agile. So CSM will only focus on Scrum part. It will not tell you what XP is. It will not tell you what Lean is. It will not tell you what Kanban is, Crystal, Future Development, DSDM. It will not talk about those. It will only focus on Scrum. Whereas Agile, PMI, ACP focuses on Agile. So it will talk about all the 9 areas. Right? So CSM is a baby. Agile, ACP, PMI, ACP will cover the complete Agile. Will make you completely Agile. It will give you knowledge of everything possible in Agile.
Super.
Okay, it will touch everything on a higher level. Okay. Again, then you can dig down to whatever level you want to all these areas, but then it will touch all the areas that are needed for you to know to be Agile.
So out of these nine frameworks, Suchi, I mean, it could be like only one implementation at a time possible, or it can be hybrid as well?
It can be hybrid as well, like these days Scrum plus Kanban is being used, right? Then while you are working in Scrum, you could be doing pair programming as well. It can be hybrid as well. So these days Scrum plus Kanban is called Scrum Van.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, like we were talking about this predictive one, it was a waterfall plus Agile, like mini waterfall.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. So everything is being scaled these days to the needs to best fit the project requirement.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the 9 areas which are there in Agile. So we will talk about all of these one by one. First is Scrum. Okay. So Scrum is nothing but Scrum is basically nothing but so I'll explain you from the start. So let's start from the requirements. In Scrum, the requirements are written in a product backlog. Okay. So the product backlog would have all the list of features that are needed to be implemented for that particular project. The duty of the product owner is to prioritize the product backlog. Okay. So if there are 20 requirements in the product backlog, he will get them reprioritized after discussion with the stakeholders and users, with the team, and give a prioritized list to the team. Now, product owner in association with team would have a sprint planning meeting where they will pick first 2, probably depending upon the bandwidth that team has. They will pick up the most important, the first 2, like 1 number, 2 number is the most important priority after they have been prioritized, right? They will first 2 and they will put that in a sprint backlog. Now, these 2 features would undergo discussion with product owner involving stakeholders, and they will detail that out. This detailing is called user story writing and acceptance criteria. Fine. So once the acceptance criteria have been decided, sprint starts. You start implementing it. It could be a 3-day, 4-day cycle. It would be a 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 weeks of cycle. They would be implemented, and once the with 2 to 3 weeks after these 2 requirements have been implemented, there is a demo, there is a review of the sprint. Then we collect a feedback from a client. Once we have a client feedback, we have a sprint retrospective. This means the complete team and product owner comes and decides what went good in the sprint, what we should stop doing, what we should start doing more frequently, and how things can be changed, the process can be changed. While in the 2 to 3 weeks of cycle, they have a daily planning meeting, which is called the daily stand-up meeting. So this is not the example which Debajit was giving for a Microsoft where product owner came in pretty late. It was a daily stand-up meeting where team was just discussing what they had decided to do yesterday. If they have not been able to do, what are the reasons, what were the impediments because of which they were not able to do. It is a whiteboard meeting, so we will talk about it in length in the coming week. So it's a whiteboard meeting where everybody's name is jotted down. They have what they did yesterday, what are they planning to do, and if something is pending from in their plate from yesterday, why was it pending? This is all they discuss. And if they have a dependency on something, like maybe I was working on a code but the server went down, so X person is working on the server, bringing it up, so I have a dependency till that person is up. So they discuss all and try to resolve it, how they can help each other, okay, and how they can remove all the obstacles. Okay, so this is a typical Scrum structure. Yeah, you can ask a question if you have. Hello. Okay, so this is a typical Scrum structure that we have. Okay, so the Scrum is based on, again, 5 values: respect each other's work. Okay, so if you are not respecting each other's work, when we are, for example, if we are doing a continuous check-in, we are doing a continuous check-in of a code, one did, another did not do, which impacted the other's work, right? You are disrespecting that person. So you should respect whatever each other is doing. Have continuous feedbacks. Okay. Third is courage. Have the courage to check in your code. If you're not confident enough, I mean, if you're checking it in, you would be probably able to understand where you are going, because when you are checking in the code, your code would go and merge with other people's code as well, and probably that is where with the team effort you would be able to solve it. Or if you have any doubts, or if you need any explanation while implementing something, have the courage to talk to your product owner. Don't think what he will think or what she will think, what would be the team's reaction that has started working and I don't have clarity. Have the courage to speak and interact. Communicate as much as possible, and then keep things simple. Work on the priority, work on what is needed. Don't waste your extra effort on things which are not needed. Okay, any questions on Scrum?
In Scrum, you meant about the feedback. The feedback means feedback within the team or with the client?
With the client and the team as well. So when you are testing within the team, you are getting the feedbacks in the form of defects, and after the sprint review meeting, you have a feedback from a client.
Yeah.
Does that answer you?
Yeah, okay, but the Scrum will happen on a daily basis, right? So the client will involve in the Scrum every day?
The product owner is involved, yes.
So here the product owner means the client or the project manager?
It depends, right? Somebody who has a good insight and good knowledge of your project, it could be your BA, who it could be from your team, or he could be from the client side. But he should be the person who has good relationship with both with the team and a client, or can build a good relationship.
Okay.
But the person should be definitely the one who has a very in-depth knowledge of the product that we are building, because he would be the final authority at for most of the things, like if he is rejecting the build, or he is accepting the work done in a sprint or not. So product owner should be a very strong person.
Okay, thank you.
So moving on to the next is XP. This is also called like extreme programming. So the intent of XP is to reduce the unnecessary meetings and unnecessary deviations. So what does XP mean is, so pair programming is one part of XP. So what you do is you pair either two developers or one tester and a developer. So when you are pairing each other, a tester could have who has written the acceptance criteria and has in-depth knowledge of a system while implementing that feature would be able to give you a first-hand feedback. Okay, so while implementing the login screen, my acceptance criteria was background color should be orange. Oh, I missed it. I thought blood red is the orange color. I implemented that. But if you have somebody sitting just next to you, and when you are just building your code, compiling your code, you would get to know it then and there. Rather, before even the code is merged, you would know it, right? Or if you are paired with your developer, you can discuss the requirements and you would implement it in the best possible way. Maybe I am implementing it something using a for loop, but another thing that it can be optimized using a while loop. So based on the discussion, you would implement in the best possible way, right? So rather than, so it has reduced the time of unnecessary meeting in a way, it reduced your effort of having a peer review. Since two of the people were working together, it reduced the effort, plus the two people had in-depth idea on how that feature was implemented, right? It saved your time in giving cross knowledge, cross people team KTs, right? And obviously when you're doing a pairing, this pairing should be swapped every 24 hours ideally, right? So I mean, so if A was working with B, so try to swap the C and D. Next time make AC work together and CD work together, or BCD work together, so that complete team gets the knowledge of what is being built, right? So when you swapped after 24 hours, 3 people have the complete insight of what went into one feature. So if something goes wrong, somebody just suddenly vanishes or resigns, looking at the iteration rate, at least other two would have the knowledge of how it was done, right? So it helps. It helps you plan better as well. It makes your planning effective, right? So as I also mentioned that since if you are pairing it with a tester, you are driving your code from the acceptance criteria which have been given. So which is a test-driven development. So you have acceptance criteria at place, you have test scenarios at place, and your code is being driven from that. So one of the test says positive values should be accepted. So I implemented it. My next test scenario said, okay, one can be negative, one could be positive. So I had another if condition which said, which took care of my other two inputs. So your test cases are, your code or your functionality is being driven from the test cases, test scenarios in a way. Refactoring, since peer reviews are happening side by side because two people are clubbed together, you are refactoring your code at the same time, right? And you are making sure of the coding standards, because obviously when two people would work together, you have that competitive spirit to write a best code, right? I don't want to give another an opportunity to point out something, right? It's a human nature tendency, right? Metaphor is nothing but using of a common names, so nomenclature. So for example, in a automation testing, like when we are creating an object repository, if two people are working at a time, I used probably ID of a name field as name underscore ID, and later at the place where it came again, I used name ID. So if two people were working together and one of them is missing, the second would always know, no, we have used this name before, but it was name underscore ID, right? Which makes the coding or maybe everything efficient, right? So you know common terms are used, right?
Yeah.
So it's a collective ownership. Sorry. Any questions?
In overall, I didn't understand this part, this extreme programming practices, and it's a part of that.
Okay, so you did not get me what I was saying completely, or some part of it?
Yeah, completely.
Okay, anybody else who has a similar doubt, or did I just go over the top, or it made some sense?
No, I think he is saying that he understood it completely.
No, I didn't understand.
Oh, okay, okay, sorry, yeah, okay.
Okay, so I'll just repeat it
completely. I understood it well.
Yeah, so for you, Mathur, I'll just repeat it. See, what happens in XP, you are working in the groups, in a pair, right? When two people are working together, it increases whole team effort. Since you are swapping your team members, right, on one piece of code, maybe one piece of code was supposed to take 28 hours, right? So, and you are swapping your team after every 14 hours suppose. So in a way, on one piece of code, three people were working. So it becomes a whole team effort on one feature, right? So when teams are working together, and if one people goes missing, something happens to one of the persons, they go on leave or something, it would never be a case that nobody knows what was happening and what was being implemented in that feature. Other two or other three people who were swapped or were working as a pair with that person would always know where was the last that they stopped. There would be no analysis required, right? So you are doing a better planning there. Now, if you are being paired with a tester as well, right, and if you are even being paired with a developer, two people would have different kind of understanding to the acceptance criteria. You would have, when you will discuss while implementing, you would have more clarity on what the feature is actually talking about. So in a way, your development is being driven from the acceptance criteria of that feature, which is the trust-driven development, right? And when you are working in a pair, you are doing a peer review side by side. If I am not following coding standard, Anitya will, if he is working with me, he'll point it out. Oh no, this is not the proper coding standard, right? So I'm following a coding standard and I'm refactoring my code at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. And metaphor is when so many people are working, they would know what were the coding standard, what were the naming conventions that were used for in the particular code. So all across the code, chances of implementing a same naming convention would be there. In one feature, if name underscore ID was used, and in other feature, different developer is using name ID, the person who was working with him and by swapping is working with the second person would know that no, we've used this name underscore ID in one of the features and we called it name underscore ID. Let's not call it name ID, let's call it name underscore ID. So metaphor is using the same kind of a nomenclature. And since we are working agile, it's small releases are there. Did that make sense now?
Yeah, okay.
What is this planning game?
Sorry? Planning game is when you are, the way I told, if one of the person is absent, like one of the person just resigned and vanished away, right? So it is not that whatever piece of code he was working would be haywire. Nobody would know what did he do.
Yeah.
So there would be always a backup person available. So this is how your planning would never fail. You do a better planning. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the metaphor and sustainable pace?
See, metaphor is like you, I, Debojyoti, and we all four are working, and suppose you use a different convention, I use a different convention, Suchi use a different convention, so it's a confusion, right? So just to avoid that confusion, Suchi made it a point that everyone will use the same kind of a name. So suppose the usernames. Now we are writing the first name dot last name. You are writing first name last name. Debojyoti is writing first name underscore last name. But Suchi made it a point that it has to be uniform.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's under the coding standard is under Agile. I need to know what's the metaphor.
Okay, so no. So metaphor is using, okay, let me just open the definition for him.
It's the same naming convention, right? Uniform naming convention.
Yeah. Saving the definition of metaphor is using the same, in XP the metaphor is using of the same nomenclature. So to your method, I am creating a login screen. Okay. In first day you and me were working. Okay. We called username field as user_name. Okay, we implemented the login screen functionality. Now, second day you were swapped and you were working with Debojyoti. Okay. Now he is implementing field level validations. He thought he was calling username as username, not as username and user_name. But you pointed out this field was used before, it has been defined before, and it is called as user_name. Right? So it made your code optimized that you don't have similar or maybe junk values. You don't have junk fields. Where once if you are giving two names to the same field, this will not make your code optimized. You would need to optimize that. As a part of a coding standard, you would have to have it one name, not the two names.
So you mean it will be a part of the coding standard?
Right. Is that clear?
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Mathur, if you have any more doubts, probably you can just leave questions for me, and I can I can respond back to you on those.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Okay. So quick Anis question. Extreme programming defines 4 basic activities that are performed during the standard software development process. This includes designing, coding, testing, and listening. Why do you think listening? Feedback, right. If I'm not alert on what I was doing, if I'm not listened to one of the team members, which I was working N-1 day, right, and nth day I would not be able to do a value addition to my next. Yeah, so I have to be a good listener. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Kanban. Has anybody used Kanban?
No.
You know what? These days Kanbans are being used in schools as well. Okay, so I'll just explain you quickly. So Kanban is nothing but a visual board basically. It's a visual task board. So where you have 3 columns, not started, in progress, and done. Based on the requirements, probably you can have it, the ones which is being displayed here, like under analysis you can put ongoing done. Maybe you are in the part of a sprint where you are in the middle of the sprint and you are also analyzing the sprint n+1, right? So you can break down in the way you want, but the basic 3 fields which we have: not started, in progress, done. So the features are the tasks we are working. So we have initially, to start with, we have all the tasks in the not started side. I pick feature 1 and 2. Our team starts working on it. Okay, and now feature 1 and 2, the sticky note, they would be removed from not started field and they will move to in progress. They will only go, feature 1 and 2 will only move to done once the testing is complete, once the defects have been closed and there is no pending issue open against it. Till that time it will be only in progress. Okay, it would be, so to define, to make sure that something is done, we have something called definition of done which is created. So we follow the definition of done. So like, if from a testing perspective, if I have to quote an example from a testing perspective, my definition of a done would be a website would be completely tested when I have cross-browser tested it across the browsers, when I have tested it across the platforms, when I have tested the backend, when I have tested the UI, or when I have tested the security. If one of the if I have not done the cross-browser testing, my feature would not be complete. It would remain in a pending state. Okay? Yeah. So this is called work in progress limit. But there is a limit internally. When you start a project, you will have to put a work in progress limit. So for example, under in progress there are 5 items, and in done there are 2. So I will not pull anything from not started to in progress till I at least clear the log in progress section. I will make a hard stop at 5. We will decide on a limit at the beginning of the project that 5 is my limit. So at point where I have 5 items or tasks in my in progress section, I will make a halt, complete the in progress, move it to done, and then start the new one. This is called work in progress. And the pull thing in Kanban is pulling from not started to in progress, and then from in progress to I'm pulling it, right? I'm not going, nothing is pushing, no, nothing is going back from done to in progress. I'm just pulling it, I'm moving it forward, I'm not pushing it, right? So it's a pull technique. Okay? Any doubts on Kanban?
So this is more from the reporting perspective and planning. I mean, planning and reporting.
It's more of a managing and reporting. How do you manage your work? Yes, it will not help you break up the tasks and activities. That is again, even Scrum would not do that. It's more of a managing.
Yeah.
It will give more visibility to people, co-located people, right? But these days, online Kanban boards are also available. There is a site called www.kanban.org or .com, I'm not sure. It provides you online Kanban boards. So you can share those boards across locations and people will see something of this kind. It will help you track your task, what is being done, what has been done, what are the issues against it, right?
Yeah, typically status reporting can be done with this, and
yeah, it is a very good form of status reporting. You can just take a pic and give a quick snapshot, or probably for managers, delivery managers who are not part of your team, who just probably would be interested in a quick snapshot rather than giving a bulky email. They will just walk through your team area, see the Kanban board, and they can understand what's going on, what's not going on.
Yeah.
And this is just a format of representing a Kanban board, like they have a star, the legend which says priority features, this needs to be worked, and when you have a double star, it's a panic, it's on a red area, I mean it needs to be finished as ASAP kinds of a thing. So it depends how visual or how beautiful you want to make your Kanban. It is completely up to you.
What are these numbers? 2, 3, 3, 2? Next analysis, development, acceptance. Wahan pe there are these numbers, right? 2, 3, 3, and 2. Any significance?
I think this is a feature. This is a feature count, na?
Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah.
I think this is the feature count.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other question?
Sure. Just. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So crystal is again one of the least prior things. So I have never seen a question coming from crystal. Even I don't think so. Even in the mock test you would get it. This is the least important part of this topic. So I'll just give you a quick 1-minute thing. Okay. So if you have questions, just let me know. Or stop me there. So it was designed by Alistair Cockburn. Okay, it is only used for very critical projects. And these areas, clear, yellow, orange, red, depends what is the stage of the project. If it's burning firefighting project, it falls into the red category. If it's in a orange, it's critical, but it's not yet into a firefighting situation, it would be orange. Similarly, yellow and clear is a project is very smooth. So generally this crystal technique is useful only where the project has come into a firefighting situation. Okay, so based on the areas it falls, like if it's in a red area, if it's in an orange area, if it's in a yellow area, incremental development methods are used. It varies what technique would be used. Okay, so in this, like if it's in a firefighting stage, we would really work on the things which really matter to us. We would not focus on the rest of the stuff, we will just focus on the things which really matter to us. For example, like if I take example of an Idura's project where he just has 1 month. Now he is at the end of the 28th October and he sees so many defects are open and so many things needs to be tested. So what he would do, the project falls under the red category, so he will pick up the most important requirements. Since he doesn't have the time to test everything, he will do a quick exploratory testing and would pick the most important and most frequently used features and just test them. Right? At least if most important and most frequent used features are being tested, they are defect free. You can still you can have some sense of satisfaction that it would be working fine. Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
Crystal. Okay. Next is FDD, which is nothing but a feature-driven development. So FD, you have a features and your development process is based on that feature. So the way it happens is you have complete list of requirements, your product log is ready. You have a complete walkthrough of that product log. Then if there are 20 items, you divide those 20 items on the domain wise. So for example, out of 20, 3 features are that need database change. So you will club them in one section. So 5 are the ones which are completely UI based. You club them together. 6 are something where you work on APIs. So in the second, where you build a feature list in a categorized form, you are categorizing them on the basis of the domain. Then you pick one domain, you pick domain-wise domain, or you pick, depending upon the kind of teams, or maybe there would be 3 tracks working in parallel. You pick those, like there would be a DB team, DBA team would be there would be a UX team who would be there. They will pick their domains. They will plan that how that feature would be implemented. And then once the designing and planning is done, you merge all that. You build by feature and you deliver it to the client. So you had the feature list, you prioritized it, you categorized it, you planned, you designed it, and then you merged the complete set of features, and this is how you delivered it to client. Right? This is feature-driven development.